President Trump is tied in knots over what to do about the Democratic socialist who's leading the polls in the race to become the next mayor of New York City. That is the headline in a new article from The Hill's White House reporter Brett Samuels, who joins us right now to discuss. Hey, Brett, so Trump has been highly critical of Zoran Mamdani, often calling him a communist, but so far it doesn't seem to have put a dent in his popularity. Maybe it's even in fact helping.
Yeah, Drew, it's one of those cases where, you look at New York City's politics, they're very different from the rest of the country. So the fact that Trump is sort of criticizing Mamdani may actually help him in this case. Mamdani is running on this platform about affordability, about bringing down costs. That's something that's going to appeal to people potentially across political lines, especially at a time when prices are on the rise. So, for all the criticism from Trump for a candidate in his hometown, it does seem like Mamdani sells a pretty steady lead here.
There's been a lot of speculation about whether or not Trump will deepen his involvement in this race, perhaps to force out the incumbent mayor, or to perhaps maybe force out the Republican that's in the race. What are you hearing as far as whether President Trump intends to further involve himself in what happens in this race?
Yeah, Drew, it's interesting because it kind of gets at your first question, which is this idea that, if Trump endorses a candidate in the New York City race, that may actually hurt that candidate because, the anti-Trump sentiment in New York City. On the other hand, we've seen him talk publicly about the idea that if the field were to narrow to a one-on-one matchup between, in the hypothetical would be Andrew Cuomo versus Mamdani, that maybe that would help Cuomo consolidate the field. I've heard that obviously the Trump administration has sort of reached out to Eric Adams, reached out to Curtis Sliwa, who is the Republican nominee, to sort of gauge their interest, but neither one at this point has indicated they're prepared to drop out. So it may just seem that the Trump White House is just going to have to keep attacking Mamdani and hope that that's enough.
What about this notion that we're hearing from some in the Republican Party that Mamdani could be a useful foil if he ends up becoming the mayor of New York City?
Yeah, that's sort of the argument, the silver lining, if you will, for Republicans, if Mamdani does win, which of course polls have him pretty comfortably ahead at this point in a four-way race, the argument being that if Mamdani wins, President Trump and other Republicans can kind of easily say he is sort of the new face of the Democratic Party, or one of the faces, leading voices of the Democratic Party, somebody who is a self-identified Democratic socialist, somebody who has some pretty left-leaning ideas about the economy, about freezing rent, about taking control of supermarket chains, for example, some of those ideas. So that's something that Republicans feel like if Mamdani does win, at least they get somebody for the midterm campaign that they can point to and paint Democrats as radical.
I wonder if there are some on the conservative side of the political aisle that worry, a Mamdani candidacy, and if he possibly wins and maintains his popularity, that if that could be detrimental to their cause by showing liberals and progressives that there's a different way to do politics, and could gain support.
Yeah, it's a good point, and somebody I talked to on the Republican side for this story actually, essentially made that argument, this idea that it's sort of a case of be careful what you wish for, where if Mamdani does win, maybe it pushes that window where Democrats are more accepting of a farther left-leaning candidate for a higher office potentially. They also pointed out this idea that if Mamdani wins and some of these policies that he's talking about are successful, that maybe they gain traction at the state level, at the national level, and suddenly people see that this type of candidate can be successful, can get results, and that ultimately that might help Democrats as they kind of search for what their best path forward is in 2028.
There have been some hints that President Trump may have something up his sleeve here. He's in the past questioned Mamdani's citizenship. Is there any, are you hearing anything else that there may be something that President could do to possibly disrupt Mamdani's candidacy?
Yeah, it's interesting because at this point you kind of figure if he had that ace up his sleeve, maybe he would have already played it. But At this point, it seems like what Trump has been doing is he has been, sort of threatening the idea that maybe the federal government will withhold funding from a Mamdani run New York City, that maybe if Mamdani is implementing policies that Trump doesn't like, or he's not cooperating with immigration policies or something, that the federal government might use that against New York City, might withhold funding, or take some kind of other punitive action. So that does seem to be kind of the card that Trump has left to play, is this idea of kind of warning New York against electing Mamdani, or at least kind of using that as a potential bulwark against a Mamdani mayorship if he does in fact win in November.
All right, we will continue following this race as we head up to Election Day, but for now we will leave it at that. Brett Samuels, White House reporter here at The Hill, thanks so much for your insight.
Thanks, Drew.